You're using your TV for the land. Okay, you got an image? Looks good.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna move it. I'm just finishing it here. Yeah.
Victims are four victims. Oh, as far as here, there are two victims. This victim was due to indictment.
let me know and I'll know.
Oh, no, I mean, you can bring people. That's up to the manager. Yeah, I'm trying to get, bring people in. I'm trying to get justice.
Well, that's really, so the big one is like only 300 viewers. You get twice as much. But yeah. It's much okay.
No, it's
remind us, any cell phones that are in here, if you were having agent, the court actively involved in a cell phone, must be off.
It's not going to be people.
Order of court, all rise, please.
You may be seated. Okay. Is everybody situated against me? I believe they are. Do we have all? This is State versus Jamie Lee Komoroski, 2023 GS 103982, felony DUI with death. As indicted. (2023) GS 103983, felony DUI great bodily injury. As indicted. 2023 GS 103984, felony DUI great bodily injury. As indicted. And reckless homicide, 2023 GS 103985. As indicted. Are there any recommendations? Well, first, who's appearing on behalf of the state?
Timothy Finch on behalf of the state, Your Honor.
Is there anyone else who will be assisting you in the presentation of this case?
Not in the presentation of the case, then the secret helped in the preparation of the case.
And Ms. Wilson is present as well.
That's correct.
Who's appearing on behalf of the defense?
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
Nathan Williams on behalf of Ms. Komoroski and Chris Mitigation, will be handling the
I'm
part.
sorry, I'm gonna need you to speak up louder. This is a vacuous court, we're not, I know you soft spoken. But if you can speak up a little bit more loud, a little bit louder for me, and of course, I know you. Nathan Williams, and who did you say would be assisting you?
Chris Mitigation,
And how's Chris spelled?
CHRIS, Your Honor.
And your last name, sir?
GRAM is Mike, ICCIONI on behalf of Jamie Komoroski.
Thank you very much. Are there any recommendations and negotiations, Mr. Finch?
No, Your Honor.
And does Ms. Komoroski have any record?
No criminal record, Your Honor.
Have you explained to your client, maybe you've seen?
Judge, do you want to set the podium, or do you rather have?
Which is better for you? The podium's closer, it's probably like the full court to hear everything and record everything. Mr. Williams, have you explained to your client the charge, the punishment, her rights?
I have,
Do you believe she understands the charges, the punishment, her rights?
I do not,
Does she wish to plead guilty or not guilty?
guilty.
Do you agree with that decision?
I do.
Has she ever been evaluated to determine her competency?
She has not done.
Have you explained to her the violent and serious classification?
I have done.
And have you also explained to her the collateral consequences of these offenses, that being the suspension of her driver's license or the revocation of her driver's license, as well as the requirement of any interlock devices?
We have none of it. We have none.
Ma'am, raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth? You can put your right hand down. I'll need you to speak a little more loudly for me, please. State your full name for the record.
Lee Komoroski,
How old are you?
27 years old.
What was the last grade you finished?
I have a bachelor's degree
In what discipline?
science. I have a bachelor in science and business administration.
And where did you get that degree?
Coastal Carolina University.
And how long ago was that?
I graduated.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I graduated in 2020, so
That's okay, the year is fine. That's what I needed. Thank you. Are you married?
no.
Do you have any children?
No.
Are you employed?
Not currently, but
What was your last job?
I was working for, I was doing digital marketing, and I was also doing web design.
And how long were you employed in that capacity?
Web design for about 2 months, digital marketing for about 3.
Are you on probation or parole?
No,
Ever been treated for the abuse of alcohol, drugs, or mental illness?
I'm now in AA.
How long have you been in AA?
I started AA as soon as it was available to me in the jail.
And so what year was that?
That was 2023.
Are you still engaged in AA?
Yes, very much.
Have you had any drugs, alcohol, or medication in the last 72 hours?
Yes.
What have you had?
My anxiety medication,
And what is that?
Lexapro,
How often do you take Lexapro?
2 times a day as needed.
Does that affect your ability to understand where you are or what you're doing?
No.
On the offense of felony DUI, how do you plead?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Do you understand the minimum is 1 year, the maximum is 25 years, and a minimum fine of $10,100 and a maximum fine of $25,100?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that it's classified as violent and serious?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that under South Carolina law, that subjects you to enhanced penalties?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that if you receive 2 additional serious offenses, you could face life without parole?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may have discussed parole or parole eligibility with your lawyer or with others, but until you're sentenced, no one can tell you when, if ever, you would be eligible for parole, or under what conditions. You should assume that you will serve any time that you're sentenced to day for day. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
On 2 counts of felony DUI, great bodily injury, how do you plead?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Do you understand that the minimum is 30 days and the maximum is 15 years?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that the maximum fine is a minimum of $5,100 and a maximum of $10,100?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand, and I'll go over that later, I apologize, I'll come back to that. On the offense of reckless homicide, how do you plead?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Do you understand the maximum penalty is 10 years and or a minimum fine of $1,000 and a maximum fine of $5,000?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that on the reckless homicide, that your license will be revoked for 5 years?
Yes, Your
Do
Honor.
you understand the court has no control over that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that on the felony DUI with great bodily injury, that your license will likewise be suspended?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand that no probation, or can be given on those offenses.
Yes, Your Honor.
You also understand that you'll be required to have an ignition interlock device on your car.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you also understand that likewise, we have no control over those statutory mandated conditions.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you also understand that on felony DUI with death, that no portion of the sentence can be suspended.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to listen carefully to the facts. Finish.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court.
Yes, sir.
This occurred April 28th, 2023, the 1200 block of East Ashley Avenue, Folly Beach in Charleston County. On that date, shortly before 10 o'clock p.m., the victims had left the wedding reception of Eric and Samantha Hutchinson, which was held on the western tip of the island. The newlyweds were being driven away in a low-speed vehicle, or LSD, which is a street legal version of a golf cart. The LSD was fully illuminated with head and tail lights as it traveled eastbound from the reception site. Benjamin Garrett was driving. His son Brogan was riding next to him in the passenger seat. On the rear of the LSD was a newlywed couple, Samantha Miller Hutchinson and Eric Hutchinson. The path of travel was on West Ashley Avenue, across Center Street, and then continue on East Ashley Avenue towards the rental house. At approximately the same time as the victims were leaving the reception, the defendant was wrapping up an outing with new coworkers at a bar on Center Street in Folly Beach. After leaving that bar, Ms. Komoroski stopped by another neighboring bar, alone, for a single shot of tequila before getting into a rented 2023 Toyota Camry to drive home to her residence on James Island. The investigation revealed that in an hour and a half prior to the collision, the defendant had consumed 6 alcoholic drinks. However, instead of leaving the island via Center Street toward Folly Road and James Island, the defendant headed eastbound on East Ashley as well, following the victim's LSD, albeit the LSD would have been significantly further up the road. While on East Ashley, the defendant traveled well over the island-wide speed limit of 25 miles an hour as she closed on the LSD. Data from the EDR, the electronic data recorder, or event data recorder from the vehicle, the Toyota, shows the defendant was traveling 61.5 miles an hour, 4.65 seconds prior to crashing into the LSD. 4 seconds later, at 0.65 seconds prior to impact, the EDR shows the defendant had increased to 65.9 miles an hour. The same data reflects the brakes were applied half a second later, 0.15 seconds before impact. During the time of travel, eastbound on East Ashley, the onboard system of the defense vehicle captured black and white snapshots of the vehicle as it weaved across the road, off to the right, then over the center line, left, and then back into the right lane as it closed in on the LSD. At approximately 10:15 p.m., in the 1200 block of East Ashley Avenue, Ms. Komoroski crashed into the LSD. Crash
10 p.m.
10:15 p.m.
10:15.
Crash reconstruction calculations estimate the defendant was traveling approximately 63 miles an hour at impact, and the LSD was traveling approximately 25 miles an hour. Samantha Miller Hutchinson was ejected from the rear-facing seat onto the hood of the Toyota. Eric Hutchinson was ejected over the vehicle, landing near the point of impact. Benjamin Garrett was ejected from the vehicle onto the roadway. Brogan Garrett was ejected from the right side of the LSD into nearby ground cover. Brogan suffered injuries to his knees. Benjamin suffered a severe head injury, injury to his wrist, which was treated in the burn unit at MUSC, and injuries to his right hip and lower back. Ben will require further surgeries to address his other injuries, including a right hip replacement, a fusion of the right SI joint, possible fusion of his neck and back vertebrae, and surgery to address arthritis in his affected joints. Eric suffered 2 broken legs, one requiring surgical intervention to repair, a fractured facial bones, fractured vertebrae, also necessitating surgery, brain bleeds, numerous lacerations over his body. Additionally, his left eye was damaged, and the prognosis regarding his vision will develop over time. He necessitated surgery to fix the lid to that left eye, enabling it to close. Currently suffers double vision. Future surgery will be assessed. Samantha Miller Hutchinson died from blunt force trauma to her head and neck. Citizens that were staying or living in the area of the crash immediately responded to the site and called 911. Among those who responded were 2 nurses that happened to be staying nearby. They, along with others, began triaging the victims. Neither detected any pulse from Samantha. As a call for assistance was dispatched, officers from Folly Beach rushed to the scene. Sergeant Halpern, who was also trained EMT, was the first responder. On his travel to the site, and knowing the severity of the crash and the injuries, Halpern's speed from his cruiser's GPS topped out at 58 miles an hour. It was essentially consistent around 44 miles an hour with lights and sirens operating. Sergeant Halpern and Officer Honeycutt, also from Folly Beach Police Department, attempted to resuscitate Samantha using CPR and an AED. Ultimately, they were not successful. Samantha was declared deceased at the scene. Folly Beach Police Department put out a call for assistance to the scene and to handle other calls while working this crash. Sergeant Charles Seven and Deputy Aaron Scruggs of Charleston County Sheriff's Office responded to assist with crash reconstruction. And CPD officers, including Zachary Azari, assisted with the DUI investigation. CCEMS, Charleston County EMS, that has transported Eric, Ben, and Brogan to MSC for treatment in the trauma unit. The coroner was called to respond for Samantha. At the scene, the defendant admitted to driving the Toyota and to drinking 2 drinks prior to the crash. She declined to perform standard field sobriety tests. She was then taken into custody for suspicion of DUI and transported to Folly Beach's Department of Public Safety to provide a breath sample, which she also declined. At approximately 1 a.m., August 29th, or April 29th, Sergeant Halpern drove the defendant to MUSC for medical clearance. A search warrant was issued for a blood sample from the defendant. MUSC collected the sample according to SLED protocols. The sample was later tested by a SLED toxicologist who reported a BAC of 0.261. A retrograde extrapolation based on the time of the defendant's last drink, her age, weight, and height, estimated her BAC to be 0.255, 0.318 at the time of the crash, between 3 and 4 times the legal limit. Ms. Komoroski was indicted by the Charleston County Grand Jury in September of 23 for reckless homicide, 2 counts of felony DUI with GBI, 1 count of felony DUI with death. Again, this plea is without negotiation or recommendations.
Angle that podium so that she's talking to her. Just angle it this way so that she's speaking directly to her. Perfect. Gives us a better. Do you agree or disagree with the facts?
I agree.
Feel anything needs to be changed or added to the facts?
No, Your Honor.
Are you pleading guilty because you're guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand you're entitled to a jury trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that during a jury trial, the state has the burden of proving your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that you would have the right to confront and cross-examine the state's witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor.
Call your own witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor.
Present any defenses?
Yes, Your Honor.
And challenge any statements as well as remain silent, and your silence could not be used against you. Do you understand each of those rights?
Yes, Your
Do you
Honor.
understand that you're giving up those rights?
Yes, Your
Do
Honor.
you understand that if you desire a trial, that the court stands ready to accommodate that request, and we have a panel coming in for that purpose?
Yes, Your Honor.
And knowing all of that, do you still wish to plead guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are there any deals you're relying on that I've not been told about? Are there any secret deals you've made between your lawyer and the state that the court is not aware of that you're relying on in pleading guilty?
No, Your Honor.
Have you been satisfied with your lawyer?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has he done everything you've asked or expected?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any complaints about his services?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone promised you anything to plead guilty?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone threatened or coerced you?
No, Your Honor.
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily and of your own will?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you understood my questions?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you need to ask any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Have you been truthful?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that you have the right to appeal each guilty plea and sentence of the court?
Yes,
Do
Your
you
Honor.
understand that you have to do that within 10 days of today in writing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that if you cannot afford an attorney for that process, that one will be appointed to you at no cost?
Yes, Your Honor.
I find there's a substantial factual basis for each plea, that each plea is going to happen freely, voluntarily, knowingly, and intelligently with the advice and assistance of counsel with whom the defendant has indicated she's satisfied. I will accept the plea. Anything further from the state? And I did not notice, oh, actually, I do notice now, I apologize. But I didn't see the other two victims' names, I'm sorry.
Your Honor,
And I assume, based on, and I neglected to ask this earlier, and I apologize for my oversight, I assume that, that on indictment ending in 3982, which is the felony DUI with death, I assume that Ms. Hutchinson's relatives were notified,
yes, correct, Your
and
Honor.
some of them are present.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Is there any restitution?
None is being sought by the state.
And I assume on indictment ending in 3983, which is the felony DUI, great bodily injury, that Mr. Ari Hutchinson was notified,
That's correct, Your Honor.
and
He's
is,
present.
and he is present, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there any restitution?
None is sought by the state.
And likewise, assuming on indictment ending in 3984, that Ben Garrett was notified,
That's correct, Your Honor. He's also present in the courtroom.
and is there any restitution?
None is sought by the state.
And on indictment ending in 3985, that's a duplicate victim, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Anything further from the state?
Only to notify the court, as you are aware, members of the victim's family who would aware.
Certainly. You can call them in the order that you'd like and make sure they speak loudly and clearly for the benefit of the court reporter. You can call them in whatever order you would like.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
First would be Ms. Lisa Miller, the mother of deceased Samantha Miller.
It's up to you, however. I'm sorry,
We'll say that, that's okay.
that's fine. Ma'am, if you would tell us your name for the record.
My name's Samantha, no, it's not. My name is Lisa Miller, I'm Samantha Miller's mom.
Yes, ma'am, we'd be glad to hear from you. Take your time.
Thanks.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you allowing me to speak, and everybody's being patient. I really want to get through this. First of all, for the last 20 years, my career has been a substance abuse counselor. So I wanted to bring that factor to the court. I've dealt with many different populations, offenders. I did a program for offenders. I've dealt with military people, adolescent programs. So I've kind of ran all gamut. The one thing that all these groups and all these populations have in common is the word enabling. And enabling happens when, does everybody know what that means? Enabling happens when, it could be family members, it could be friends, it could be their children, maybe the adult is the one that's alcohol. They help them because they don't want them to get in trouble. They don't want them to have a bad life. By them helping them, they're really doing them a dishonor. And the only way that somebody that's having alcohol or drug issues and addiction can get better is to suffer the natural consequences of their behaviors. In this case, the natural consequences is the legal consequences of what happened which resulted in my family, sibling, child, not being here anymore. The good thing about it, if she goes and stays some time in jail, they have treatment in there. AA is not treatment. AA doesn't help somebody who's addicted. It's good once you get to that point where you're on for treatment, you spend some time in sobriety. AA is where you go hang out with your other people, and that's it. This is in parts, but thank you. Who was Sam? I want to talk about Sam because my daughter, and she wasn't just a person on golf cart that just got married and got killed. She was and will always be my child. I'm going to tell a little bit of the story. Just bear with me. I got pregnant with Sam. I was single, divorced with an older child. Those things happen. They did not have any help or any assistance. And so I think that bonded Sam and I as being fighters together through life, helping each other until my husband that I met and married adopted Sam and was her dad. So life wasn't always easy for us to get through what we had to get through. It's really hard to figure out how we were going to make it financially. My whole first career was based on being pregnant with Sam. I know it sounds funny, but it's like I have 9 months to get a career. I can't make $10 an hour anymore. So 9 months, hey, I can go to hair school. We figured it out. Like, we always figured things out together. Not only was she my daughter, Sam and I had, excuse me.
That's okay, take your time.
Sam and I had a relationship probably better than most people that love each other. I'm very close with my other 2 kids. Our family has always been close. But Sam and I had a bond that was very different and very amazing, and we both had each other's backs all the time. We talk every day, her whole entire life. You know, most 30-year-olds don't want much to do with their parents anymore. You know, hey, yeah, I'll come over for Christmas dinner, but I'm not going to hang out with you all the time. And I'll lead into something else I'm getting off of. But in saying that, the last time I was with Sam before the week of the wedding, her birthday's 3/27. So on 3/27, a month and a day earlier, she called me for her birthday and she said, all I want, Mom, is for you to come see me, for you to be with me on a birthday. And I brought champagne and we brought cupcakes and we went down to the beach at sunrise, our favorite time, and we did silly dances on the beach with cupcakes and champagne. That's what an amazing relationship is. She used to, when she was little, when my husband would tease me or tease her or whatever, you know, just, he would act like he was saying things about me and she would just get so mad. I'd be like, don't talk about my mommy. Like, just defended me. Then when we divorced and I started somewhat dating sometimes, she met one of them, she'd get right up in their face and be like, you hurt my mama. I'll leave out the words she used. Hurt you, basically. That's the best friend. You can only hope that anybody in this room that has kids could have a relationship like that with their child's friend. She wanted everybody to feel happy. I had people coming up to me after Sam passed and was like, you know, if they worked with her, if I were gonna go to work and I was in a bad mood, I went anyway because Sam would make me feel better. That's who she was. She wanted everybody to just feel loved, cared about, and as much as I didn't want to talk, if something would happen to me, Sam would be up here screaming off the mountaintops for all her pain. That's who she was. Yeah. Doing pretty good. Not sure if talking to yourself is good. The one year she moved to Utah on Valentine's Day, and that was the hardest, that was the only year we were ever apart. On Valentine's Day, I came home to my house, and my whole driveway was covered with I love you mores in pink everywhere. My whole walkway, my whole door was different color flowers. I mean, different color hearts, red, pink, my whole entire front door. I don't know many kids at 30-something years old that would care about their mom having a good Valentine's Day party or day and want her to feel loved and live in a different state and have one of her friends come over to her mom's house and do this. Not too many. So unfortunately, I don't like talking about the event, but I just want to tell you what happened through Sam's mom's eyes and our family and what we experienced, which was pretty horrible. So it was supposed to be a rainy day, it was supposed to be a cloudy, and the weather just, an hour before the wedding, just became beautiful. Couldn't have been better. Everything was perfect. Sam had me hold her phone during the wedding. And when she was on the golf cart, she realized she didn't have her phone. I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's okay. So she said someone to come get her phone. And you don't know how many times we go down the rabbit hole. If she had just gone without her phone or told me to come bring it to her or whatever. I mean, it's perfect timing that she got right in front of this car. But we try not to do that too much. So after the wedding, we went to where we were staying in our Airbnb and basically got into some sweats and we're hanging out on the porch and everybody had a good night and pouring a glass of wine, relaxed, and I'm standing out there and I hear all these sirens and the fire trucks, which on a Friday night in Folly, it's not very rare. I mean, they're there all the time, right? But I heard those fire trucks and saw those lights and I yelled, "Something happened, Sam." And Mandy said, "No, Mom." And I said, "Something happened to Sam." That's how much, that's a connection with somebody. I knew. And it wasn't until, I don't even know how long later, somebody came by and was nice enough to ask us if we'd heard about the accident. And so she took us down there. Sorry, this arm is working. And Mandy and I, my daughter, ran barefoot into the scene, which was all up. Sam's dad was there. And within, like, I don't know the timing, but maybe 15, 20 minutes, one of the officers there came up and told us, me, that everybody that was in the accident was taken to the hospital. So Mandy took me to the hospital. We went to the hospital to find Sam. They didn't have ID, so it was gonna be a while before they figured out where everybody was. But I really believe that she was at the hospital. And then it was like 2 in the morning. We stayed, we hung out outside. Some of Sam's friends came. And we stayed outside waiting. And then my ex-husband Sam's dad called my phone and he said, Sam's not at the hospital, Lisa. He said, Sam's still on the side of the road, I just identified her. And I just fell to the ground. I don't even know how we ended up going through the next few days, but anyway, I know that's our story. I'm Sam. And what happened? Sam was light. She was love. And she was amazing. And always will be. I'm gonna insert one more thing that I forgot when we were talking about the wedding. We're almost to the end, but another thing that Sam did. She planned the wedding, miserable for really that year planning the wedding, which sucked, but she was kind enough to do her daddy-daughter dance with both of her dads. And nice enough to include both of them. And then afterwards, we're all standing there ready for the next thing to happen, and the DJ announces special dance for the most special person in Sam's, most important person in Sam's life. And it was me. And she played our song, and that's the last time I hugged my kid. It was on that dance floor. It was the most beautiful thing a child could do for their mom. And that's just unexplained, our relationship. Last thing I need to say, I'm gonna probably just read this, is that myself, Sam's siblings, Sam's siblings are nieces, and her father, we've been sentenced to a lifetime of pain, as with half the world. As a mom, I can't even describe to you. I've lost my brother. I lost both my dads. This is so different. And it is scientifically proven that some kids' cells stay in your body. She died. We died. And she doesn't get a partial sentence. She doesn't get to come back to life in 10 years or 20 years. And we don't get to come back to life in 20, 25 years. This is a lifetime. Your Honor, I hope that you consider our plea in the world's plea to hold the defendant responsible for her poor choices and to experience the legal consequences of her action. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time.
Mr. Watson.
Your Honor, next, Amanda Jenkins, sister of the deceased.
Hi, my name's Mandy Jenkins. I'm Sam's sister. As I stand here today, I'm struggling to find words that can truly convey the depth of the pain, grief, loss, and life adjustments we've all experienced in the last year and a half. It's obvious to everyone that Sam was a bright light in this world, a person full of love, laughter, and kindness. She touched everyone she met with her warmth and compassion. Her death has left a hole in our lives that can never be filled. I will never get to hear her voice, see her smile, or share any moments we have planned for the future. The pain of losing her is unbearable, and every day feels like a struggle to move forward. But Your Honor, I don't have a choice to give up. Sam was an aunt to my two daughters. My daughters, Amber and Maisie. Their Auntie Sammy. Despite Sam's constant care to everyone, the love she had for them was like no other, and it was mutual. Becoming a mother is the greatest milestone in my life, one Sam will never get a chance to do. My family traveled from Florida to South Carolina on April 20th, 2023, in preparation for Sam and Eric's wedding. And me and my girls never went back to Florida. 12 hours after we found out Sam was killed, Amber asked me why everyone from the wedding was at our Airbnb and why is everyone so sad. I was not prepared to explain death to a 5-year-old yet, especially because it was her Auntie Sammy. If you've never experienced trauma, I don't wish it upon anyone. Regardless the thousands of dollars spent on therapy, the triggers are immensely debilitating every single day. The sirens, flashing lights, seeing a wedding dress, a golf cart, just the simple task of driving, and many, many more. When I'm with my girls, any of these things come up, they try to protect me. Singing a song loud to drown out the siren noise in hopes a grief wave doesn't hit me and I quickly spiral. Day to day, if I say, hey, mommy's just going to the grocery store real quick, Amber and Maisie quickly panic, having to say goodbye multiple times just in case I don't come back, in their words, like what happened to Auntie Sammy. My job is to protect them, shouldn't be the other way around. But I also now have the task of protecting my mother and being her rock through this. She once said years back, if anything ever happens to one of my kids, I'd kill myself. The moment we found out Sam was plowed down, I made my mother look me in the eye and promise me she wouldn't do that. I didn't quite believe her, knowing the bond her and Sam shared, and I knew I needed to be by her side through every moment of this. I sent my husband on a plane to Florida, and he packed up our house and we moved to North Carolina, now 1,000 steps from my mom. This tragedy has not only stolen the future that my sister should have had, but has also forever altered the course of our lives. I know that no sentence can bring Sam back. The choices made by the drunk driver the night she killed my sister will affect us forever. They have taken more than just a life. They have taken the future, our future. I am filled with anger and frustration knowing that my sister's life was cut short by a selfish, senseless, and preventable tragedy. The defendant's actions have forever changed our family, and we have to live with the consequences of this loss every single day, and she should too. No one should endure this pain except for her. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Your Honor. Next, Nathan Miller, brother of Samantha Miller.
Nathan Miller, Sam's brother.
Yes, sir.
It's not much that hasn't been said. So just really brief. But I'm sure as you and everyone else can see and hear that how hard it's been on our family to go through something like this. It's unimaginable. If you haven't been through anything like this, then won't really do it any justice for me to try to put it into words. And if you have, then I don't need to put it into words for you. How much pain and anxiety and just like worry, constant worry, just living in a state where, you know, when your phone rings, you know that there's a pretty good chance that on the other line, there's gonna be somebody in peril, and you have to do your best to try to help them. Not only do we have to deal with the loss ourselves, but we have to watch our loved ones go through it as well. last thing I'll say is just hope that the sentence is the maximum, because this wasn't an accident. Wasn't an accident to go over 60 miles per hour on these, pitch black, tiny, folly roads that are constantly filled with people. Honestly, it'd be more surprising if someone wasn't killed in those circumstances. So, leave it at that. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Mr. Penn?
Thank you, Honor. Next, Brad Warner, biological father. See.
Yes, sir. If you would tell us your name for the record.
I'm Brad Warner.
Yes, sir. Be glad to hear.
I'm Sam's biological daughter. My father. I'm the one that wasn't there in the first part of her life. For the past 20 plus years. I was there for her when she needed me. When I was 2 years old, I got hit by a car, left on the side of the road for dead. I survived. Everybody says they think the person was drunk. It was a hit and run. They never found the person. So every day I woke up for 57 years and hated this person. Hated every day. I'd wake up and hate somebody I didn't even know. Six months before Sam was taken, I said to her, I was like, I got to get this weight off of my shoulder. I said to Sam, I'm going to forgive this person. I don't know who it is. I did. The next day I talked to Sam. It was like 1,000-pound weight was taken off my shoulders. I felt like I could fly. 6 months later, that hatred is back on with vengeance. I've never felt this much weight. This person, he took such a beautiful person away. She was loved by so many. I didn't realize how many people over the past year and a half I've heard from people that actually hate you. And they love Sam, they never met Sam, don't even know Sam. For the rest of my life, I'm gonna hate you. And when I arrive in hell and you come there, I'll open the door for you. You have ruined so many people's lives. And I hope you understand what you did, because you've taken no responsibility for what you've done. You can apologize all you want later. I will not listen to a word. It's not worth it. Everybody used to call Sam a female version of me. Because we say what we mean and we mean what we say, and she always did. She was a beautiful soul. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome, sir. Mr. Penn?
Thank you, Honor. Next, Annette Hutchinson.
Your Honor, my name is Annette. My name is Annette Hutchinson. That's Hutchinson.
Yes, ma'am.
and Brogan's grandmother. My family is my world. My children and grandchildren are everything to me. All that I do is for my family. Yet until today, I've spent the last 19 months watching helplessly as this horrific event and aftermath unfolded, shattering the lives of 2 out of my 3 children, and ending the beautiful life of my beloved daughter-in-law, Sam. Speaking here today is the one thing I can do for them. Your Honor, I ask you to please consider Sam when you impose your sentence. Sam joined our family in March of 2019 when she chose my son. She was a force, so lively and so full of love, especially for my son, Eric. It was apparent to all of us they had both found the love of their lives. For over a year, Sam planned every detail of her wedding, a first marriage for both. She was excited and counting down the days, unaware she was also counting down to her own tragic death. On their wedding day, I had never seen Sam or Eric so happy. Their faces lit with smile the entire time, even as they waved goodbye from the golf cart they were riding on to start their life together. Photos in the video of the day captured the magic, but they are now too painful to watch or look at. Because our lives were forever changed moments later by the defendant when she recklessly sped through a quiet residential neighborhood into the back of the golf cart. In the police report, a witness described the crash as sounding like a bomb's explosion. That statement replays in my mind, thinking of the 4 of them struck in such a manner. The next day, I had the horrific task of telling my son that his new wife had died after he repeatedly asked during moments of consciousness, "Where is Sam?" I cannot describe to you the pain I felt as I watched my son's face process this, and I knew what he would say before he said it. It should have been me. Later, my husband and I spent a week cleaning and repairing Sam's wedding dress so it was presentable to Eric, because he did not get to see Sam after she was killed. So he wanted to see what she was last wearing in his final memory with her. Your Honor, I ask you to please consider my children and grandchildren when you impose your sentence. The night of the crash, my son Eric and son-in-law Ben both sustained injuries from which they'll never fully recover. I'll never forget the shock of arriving at the scene. I wish we could have shielded my other 4 grandchildren from the trauma of it, but we were from out of state, so we had no option but for them to accompany us. My memories from the scene are vivid and fixed in slow motion. My daughter being held from running to her unrecognizable husband Ben where he lay, her slumping to the ground, the police officer who stopped me to verify if they had found the correct number of victims, and my own realization at that moment that my son and Sam were there also. I recall the onlookers' expressions telling me more than I wanted to accept. My other son, Adam, and his family arrived and tried to comfort my daughter's 2 children, while my daughter ran up to him and screamed, "It's Sam and Eric too." Each devastating detail is permanently etched in my memory, including the moment when we found out that mere minutes after the happiest moments of her life, Sam had died. My son stayed at the scene and saw the criminal defendant sitting on the side of the road completely unharmed, and watched as she was led away past him. 5 of my grandchildren, ages 10 to 17, one a victim of the crash, went from the scene to the emergency room, spending the night in the waiting room, not knowing what happened to their family. They will carry the trauma of this core memory with them for the rest of their lives. In the initial hours after the defendant slammed into Eric, Sam, Ben, and Brogan, medical staff at the hospital thought Eric wasn't going to survive his injuries. They moved him into ICU and advised us to spend as much time as possible with him. For months following this tragedy, Eric needed full-time medical care. He could not drive for 15 weeks. Since the crash, I've spent over 7 months here in South Carolina. My husband, who still works full-time, 6 weeks. Eric's siblings and friends have spent several additional weeks helping him, and we relocated him to our home state for a few months over last year's holiday, knowing how hard they would be, and he was all alone here. After Eric's initial surgeries for facial reconstruction and to repair both his legs so he'd be able to walk again, he required wound care, numerous follow-up doctor visits, and physical therapy. I watched him use a walker to get around and throw it across the room in frustration. I ran to the bathroom in the middle of the night after hearing him fall and cleaned his blood off of the floor. When he developed internal stomach ulcers, acid reflux, a deteriorating esophagus, and had bouts of profuse vomiting, I saw the pain and agony those caused. However, dealing with the severe physical injuries was easy compared to the grief, anxiety, and survivor's guilt to come. You cannot imagine the pain of constantly seeing your grown son crying helplessly and lost. For months upon my awakening, I would go check to see if my son was still breathing. On the darkest of days, I had to chase away the thought that maybe it would have been better if he and Sam had been taken together. I would prefer my own grief over my son's. One of countless heartbreaking memories I have is brushing the road debris off of the wedding envelopes that police gathered at the scene. While Eric opened them and read all the well wishes wedding guests had expressed for the life the happy couple would make together. There were 125 wedding guests and vendors at the wedding. 75% traveled from out of state to attend only to be traumatized. Since this tragedy, Eric has made over 20 trips to the emergency room and 3 times was readmitted to the hospital for severe anxiety attacks, nausea, and dehydration. His most recent visit was only 3 weeks ago. I know some here see Ben and Eric as the men they appear on the exterior. What are not visible are the internal injuries, the scars hidden by clothing from the multiple surgeries both have endured. You don't see the constant physical pain that has become a part of their lives. The pain doesn't stop there. The emotional pain, the post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, survivor's guilt, and grief have been constant for these 19 months. You don't see the daily struggle, the arthritis setting in, and the future surgeries they've been told will be necessary to control pain and enable both men to remain mobile as they age. You don't see their limited abilities. They're unable to do activities they did before and must rely on others. Both are facing a difficult fight for the remainder of their lives. I was told there are no charges against the defendant for my then 17-year-old grandson, Brogan, because he was not severely injured. Yet he was struck by a car at 65 miles per hour while sitting next to his father, thrown several feet, landing close to his new and and now deceased Aunt Sam. His view of Sam shielded by another young girl who had ran out of a nearby home, until he was placed in an ambulance and taken to the emergency room. I know Brogan struggles with his own PTSD, anxiety, trauma, and grief, but mostly in silence, because he sees the physical and emotional struggles of his father and uncle. And I know he feels lucky, but I worry for him when he starts to recall the trauma of the day. Your Honor, I need you to please consider the irreparable damage the criminal defendant has caused our families when you impose your sentence. I'm standing here today to tell you I don't know if my son will ever be okay or know happiness again. We now live under a shadow. We go through our day-to-day. We even smile for pictures, but it's not real or the life we had. None of us will recover from losing Sam. Although unseen, the emotional damage is constant and at times relentless. Your Honor, please don't prioritize the defendant's life over the life of Sam and the life sentence of pain and suffering inflicted on Eric and Ben. Please send a clear message to the defendant that she must take responsibility for her actions, and to others that taking a life as a direct result of irresponsible and selfish choices will result in severe consequences. As we now know, no one is immune to losing someone at the hands of another. It can happen at any time, and we live with the newfound fear it could happen to us again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your Honor, Alexis Garrett.
Yes, ma'am, tell us your name for the record.
Alexis Garrett.
Yes, ma'am.
My husband, Ben Garrett, was the driver of the golf cart on April 28th, 2023, along with 3 other of my family members. My son, Brogan Garrett, was a passenger in charge of playing the music and holding Eric's suit coat. And my brother, Eric Hutchinson, and my new sister-in-law, Samantha Miller Hutchinson, were all in the golf cart. Your Honor, I've struggled with what to say here today because nothing will convey the depth of pain and struggle that we have endured all of these months or feel adequate to express what was lost that night. We spent the entire day of April 28th, 2023 together. We started setting up for the wedding that morning on the beach with our entire family helping. It was a perfect day and a beautiful wedding. I have never seen 2 people happier or more in love than Eric and Sam were on that day. We were still cleaning up at the wedding reception venue when I got the call that changed our lives. I was told my husband and son were involved in an accident and to come right away. Most of that night and the days and months that followed are a blur, except certain moments that will forever stick in my mind. Arriving at the scene, to so many police and medical vehicles, running in my bare feet to the crash site, seeing the chaos and destruction, seeing what I didn't even recognize as a golf cart scattered across the road, seeing my husband in a terrible state lying on the road covered in blood, and then being loaded onto a stretcher. I was not allowed to get close to him or anyone there. I remember the moments of despair as I could not see anywhere where my 17-year-old son was. The confusion and the chaos of the scene, and the kind bystanders who held my mom and I as we tried to comprehend what was happening, and as we learned that Sam and Eric were also involved. Being told to go to the hospital, praying with my other 2 children in the car on the way to the hospital, arriving at the ER not knowing who was there or what condition they were in. The look of fear and the way my son cried when he finally time they saw me in the emergency room, waiting in my son's room in the ER, while we weren't allowed to see my husband, and then finding out that Sam did not make it. Then hearing that my brother was also not doing good and wasn't expected to make it. I remember the worry of not knowing whether I should leave my son and husband when we didn't know the extent of their injuries, so that I could go up to the ICU to say goodbye to my brother. It was all too much. It was so much tragedy. I'm trying to figure out how to help so many people I loved all at once. It felt like we were constantly trying to triage all of our family members, all while staying in a rental house 2,000 miles from home. The days that followed were heavy, as we tried to comprehend the loss of Sam while trying to navigate the physical injuries Eric and Ben both had. I remember going floor to floor to each of their rooms in the hospital to see that, all while my son recovered at a rental house with my other 2 children. That day that started out so blissfully happy ended in absolute tragedy. The defendant stole the life of the most vibrant woman with the best laugh and the most gorgeous smile. Losing Sam created an irreplaceable void in our family. The pain of losing her is an ever-present reminder of how fragile life can be, and it has left us in a state of grief that is difficult to put into words. My brother Eric is never going to be the same. I had never experienced that depth of pain and sorrow when we were in his hospital room the days following. And he would wake up and not remember what had happened, and we would have to tell him all over again. The past 19 months, he has struggled to continue to live. We have worried we would lose him many times since then, because the sorrow and survivor's guilt are just too great to comprehend. He suffers from many physical injuries that cause him daily pain, but nothing will ever compare to his shattered heart. My husband has experienced many physical injuries. He was covered head to toe in road rash and deep cuts and gashes. He spent 11 days in the hospital in Charleston. 9 of those were in the burn unit, undergoing surgery to clean out his many wounds. He underwent physical therapy to be able to walk with a walker and had to be able to sit long enough to endure the long flight home. He is the strongest man I know, and to see him in so much pain was one of the hardest things I have ever done. He continues to have physical pain limiting so many of his daily activities. Many days even walking is too much. The repercussions of that night extend far beyond his physical scars. They have left emotional wounds that we will carry indefinitely. My son, who was 17 years old at the time and merely a passenger in what was meant to be a joyous celebration, has been deeply affected emotionally. Witnessing the aftermath of that horrific accident has instilled in him a sense of fear and anxiety that he struggles with daily. The innocence of his childhood and my other 2 children has been stolen and replaced with an overwhelming sense of drama. It is heartbreaking to see my children struggling with feelings they should never have had to experience at such young ages. Being here today was a conflict for us. We live in Utah, and we had to leave behind my daughter, who cries and breaks down at the mere mention of South Carolina. And the thought of returning to the state terrified her. And bring my youngest son, who didn't want to be parted from his father and brother again. Whenever I go 65 miles per hour on the freeway, I now think of how fast that really is. And that they were riding in a golf cart. It's terrifying to think of what they experienced as the defendant hit them going so fast. We know that it is nothing short of a miracle that these 3 men are still with us here today. And we know Sam had a lot to do with that. She is love and light, and the world will not be the same without her. No family should have to endure the heartbreak and suffering that we have due to this completely preventable tragedy. I do not believe this was merely a single act of recklessness. It has destroyed our family, shattered dreams, and left lasting scars on all of us. We will never be the same. Ours is a life sentence without Sam, and with all of the physical and emotional injuries that the defendant has left in her wake. Thank you for your time, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Thank you, Your Honor. Next, Grogan Garrett.
My name is Rogan Garrett,
Spell your first name for us, sir.
Brodean. And on April 28th, 2023, while me and my family were on a fun vacation to support my uncle and aunt, what was supposed to be a joyous and celebratory day turned into a nightmare that will haunt me and my family for the rest of our lives. That night, after my aunt and uncle's wedding, an intoxicated Lee Komoroski struck me and my dad while we were taking my aunt and uncle to their rental. The crash took my aunt's life. A bride celebrating the happiest day of her life just hours earlier. She was full of love and laughter and light, and her absence has left an unfillable void in our family, as well as others who had to have Sam ripped from their lives. The impact of this tragedy goes far beyond her death. My father and uncle were severely injured. My uncle to the point that he was not supposed to make it through the night. My father endured immense physical pain, a long hospital stay, and grueling recoveries as well as having to watch my biggest role model and protector in life struggle that much to walk just a couple of feet, to sit up in a chair, and to watch him sit out while me and my brother would play catch. I too was injured, both physically and emotionally. The images of the mangled golf cart, staring at the leaves of the trees as sirens blared and lights flashed across them. My ride in the ambulance to the ER. Finally getting to the ER and hearing my mom tell me what was going on. Finally seeing my dad in the state that he was in, and listening to him groan while my mom shared the news to me about Sam. My thoughts were racing while I was young, wondering what was going to happen to our family, and thoughts of the brand new marriage that got ripped apart in seconds. These are things that I relive daily. The fear of getting rear-ended again has haunted me since that day, and I cannot stop checking my rearview mirror while I drive. The emotional and mental impact has caused me to often wonder how anyone could make the choice to drive while intoxicated, a choice that has brought so much harm to innocent lives. The decision to drive under the influence is not reckless, it's selfish and cruel. It is an act that destroyed a family and robbed us of a loved one who we can never get back. This accident didn't just affect our bodies, it shattered our hearts and broke the spirit of a family that had come together for love and celebration. Instead of remembering that day for the joy of a wedding, we now associate it with grief, trauma, and loss. The few more days that I spent in Folly Beach were not pleasant. When I finally returned to the rental that we were staying at, there was a dull feel to everything. The adults with us were usually taking naps or resting before they returned to the hospital to take their shift with my dad and uncle, while the older kids were tasked with keeping the younger ones entertained. My sister refused to let me out of her sight. They would be constantly taking care of me while my mom was with my dad. I was faced with having to try and help my brother while we struggled with emotions that were not meant to be felt and processed by both of us. Every little daily task was a struggle for me, and everything seemed to move in slow motion. When it was time to finally go home, we came to realize that my dad was not going to be joining us. And that devastated me and my siblings. Having to separate our family in a time where all we wanted was to be together was very hard. When we got home and were forced to return to our normal lives, it was a struggle. Going back to school and trying to pretend like everything was okay was mentally draining. Everyone asking you the same question over and over again about whether you were okay or not was taxing. Everyday activities like classes, sports, and hanging out with friends felt pointless. And my motivation started to disappear when all I wanted was for my dad to come home. And when my dad finally returned home, the enormous burden that was placed on my family did not go away. While still having to help my dad recover, we were also hearing stories about how my uncle was doing back in South Carolina. They were hard to hear, and the combination of watching my dad struggle to recover from his injuries made it hard to keep our hopes up for a better future. The justice process that followed was daunting and placed a lot of stress on me while I was trying to navigate this foreign world that I was dropped into. The big toll on my mental health and the fear of losing another family member has also affected many big decisions in my life. One of those decisions being after graduating to serve an LDS mission, which I was preparing my whole life to do and was looking forward to. I hope the court will consider the profound impact that Lee Komoroski's actions have had on me and my family and my future. I ask for accountability and justice, not only for the harm done to us, but to send a message that such choices have devastating and irreversible consequences. Thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Benjamin Garrett.
Yes, sir, if you would tell us your name for the record.
Benjamin Garrett.
You may.
Your Honor, I just want to start out thanking all the first responders for that night. I know it wasn't something that anybody wanted to go through. And also, I just want to thank Folly Beach, the community, Charleston, Morgan, Utah, North Carolina, everybody around the world for supporting our families through this. Your Honor, that evening was such a good night, celebrating Sam and Eric and their love. And I was looking forward to driving them off their rental with my son. It was my only job for the wedding. While we were on the drive there, we were talking that night. You know, we were just listening to Sam and Eric talk, flirting with each other. Rogan and I were having conversations. We talked about the breakfast burritos at Burt's Market, how fantastic they were. And that's the last thing I remember that night. The next thing I knew, someone was tapping my shoulder, asking me if I knew where I was. And I remember opening my eyes and seeing all the lights and knowing that I was at the hospital. I had no idea how I got there or what had happened. The next time I woke up, I remember hearing Eric yelling in pain, just screaming, "It hurts, it hurts." There was so much chaos inside the ER, in and out of consciousness. I asked about my son, and one of the nurses came back, I think it was a nurse, I don't know who it was, told me that it didn't look good. And then a little bit later, when I woke up again, they came back and told me that they'd given me the wrong diagnosis. They'd given me Eric's diagnosis instead of my son. And that my son was with my wife, and they'd be taking me back there. The hospital staff eventually took me back to go see my wife and my son. And that's when my wife told me that Sam didn't make it. They didn't know if Eric was going to make it through the night. It was my only job, and I didn't get to complete it. To make sure that they got to their rental property and have their honeymoon. Your Honor, I had road rash all over my body. that night, I had no idea what the extent of my injuries. I didn't want to move, I couldn't move. Had stitches in my forehead, an open hole in my knuckles, on my left hand, giant gash on my right wrist, and I couldn't walk, couldn't even stand. I actually, when they released my son, I told him I'd come home, and the doctors told me, well, if you can stand, you can go home. It was a struggle to sit up, and I knew that I'd be staying longer. After the first couple of days of my wife getting pretty upset with the condition that I was in, Dr. Hink at NUSC and her team took me in for surgery again. Fixed up the stitches on my forehead and also gave me a fish skin graft on my right wrist. I then spent the next 9 days recovering from injuries and trying to walk. I separated my right SI joint, cracked my sacrum, and tore the labrum in my right hip. I had to practice sitting in a chair so that I could show the doctors that I could fly home and join my family who had left. When I returned home, I was referred to the University of Utah Burn Clinic and instructed to see a general practitioner and orthopedic surgeon. I had more MRIs and x-rays due to problems in my pelvis, my back, and my neck. That is when they found that I had broken vertebrae in multiple places in my back and my neck. And I still have issues there today. I spent 6 months in physical therapy until my insurance told me I ran out of visits. Your Honor, this is just a list of the physical injuries, and most of them I'm still dealing with. So I'll need to have a hip replacement, fusion of my SI joint, and possible fusion of my vertebrae in my neck and my back. This will continue to be a burden that we'll have to deal with financially, physically, and emotionally for the rest of my life. The hardest part of this, the whole incident, is the mental and emotional side. Your Honor, my wife and kids saw me in a state they should never see me in. And I am unable to be the husband or father that I was or wanted to be in the future. I should be seen as their protector, their rock. My kids and my wife now watch me go downstairs to make sure I can make it. They come out and carry things in from my truck or from our cars because I can't carry them. These are all things that I could do on my own before. And I can't even do stuff around the house. I can't get on the ground, fix a faucet that's leaking. I can't get on the ground to pull weeds or fix sprinklers. Wrestle with my boys, run football routes, throw passes, swing a bat, swing golf clubs, be a catcher for my son when he wants to pitch. I can't even go for a run. I don't even like to run, but I can't go for a run. I would love to be able to do TikTok dances with my daughter, like I used to. These are all things that have been taken from us, including my hobbies of hiking, fly fishing, ice fishing, skiing. I get so frustrated that there's so many things that I can't do. And stuff that I do around my house, I now have to hire somebody to do. But before I could just do it on my own. And whenever someone leaves our house, which we've got teenagers, so it happens all the time, we are nervous and always checking on them to see where they're at, hoping that they will make it home safely. It's a new fear for us. in my truck that when I start getting anxious, anxiety when I'm driving, I can grab that golf ball and rub the dots, the dimples in it, to help ground me and help me calm down. And I always go back in my mind to that night, me being the driver, if there was something that I could have done. Something I could have done different. I replayed the events leading up to it constantly in my mind. Like Rogan going back to give Sam's cell phone. How long we sat at a stoplight listening to a song. Could I have gone a different route? Could I have gone slower? Could I have gone faster? These are the things that I struggle with every day. Every day I'm in constant pain and have no way to get the relief that I need. I have to go to work. I have a family to support, and I work in construction and drive a lot, so I can't take painkillers. When I get up in the morning, I say a prayer that the pain today will not be that bad, and then I'll be able to do the things that I need to do to take care of my family. It is a daily struggle. Some days it's hourly. But I will not let James' choice to drink and drive at night keep me from trying every day to get better. Your Honor, I don't know Jamie. I don't know her personality. I've never talked to her. I don't plan on talking to her. But the decision to drive drunk that night was made well before April 28th, 2023. I'm a strong believer that people have a moral compass in their lives, whether we agree with that compass or not. Everybody has a moral compass, and Jamie made the decision that it was okay to drink and drive well before that night. There is a statement that Jamie made in one of the calls to her father where she asked, "Why did this happen to me?" Like she didn't have control over this. Your Honor, nothing happened to Jamie. Jamie happened to Sam. Jamie happened to Eric. Jamie happened to Brogan. Jamie happened to me. Jamie happened to everybody that was impacted by this. She chose well before that night to drink and drive, and that it would be okay. It was not. I'm not sure that Jamie is remorseful. We are here today, a little over 19 months later, listening to her plead guilty. Even though I am thankful for that, and that we aren't going to trial, we did not get to delay the physical and emotional prison that Jamie put us in for 19 months. The evidence was there. Why did it take this long? Jamie will serve her time and the penalty that the court decides, and we will respect that. She will eventually get out, but the prison that she has put us in will be with us the rest of our lives. We will never get Sam back. Our lives will never be the same. I think about having grandchildren and not being able to get on the ground and play with them. I know the court will do what it needs to do, and we will accept that. And I thank you for your time, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Thank you, Your Honor. Eric Hinson. Sir, if you would state your name for the record.
Yes, Eric, A-R-I-C,
And your last name, sir?
Hutchinson,
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. You may proceed.
Sam was my wife. I was sitting next to her on the golf cart. I've been thinking about what to say ever since that night. What do you say when your world's shattered? Physically, I'm in pain every day. My face hurts, my back hurts, my feet hurt. It's a struggle to get through every day. I've seen more doctors than I can count. I've seen more therapists. More psychiatrists, done more procedures than I ever care to do. And I still feel I'm at the same point as when I found out that day. My world will be ever changed what happened that night. I think about that night every single day. In the last moments I had with Sam on the golf cart. She told me she didn't want the night to end. And I kissed her on the forehead. And then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital. I see my mom's face, still wearing the wedding dress from the night before. And I knew instantly. And so I asked for Sam. I knew she wasn't there. I wish more than anything gives me instead of Sam. I wish I died that night, so she didn't have to go alone. I wish I saw you coming, and I jumped off the golf cart so you would only run me over. And pray to God that you'd miss that golf cart. We did not get hit. We got ran through at 65 miles per hour. There's no way any four of us, any three of us should be alive. All four of us should have died that night. But I'm a firm believer Sam saved us. That's who she is. And she would have took one for all of us. Said, take me, save these guys. The guilt with that I live with every single second of every day is unbearable. You took the greatest human being I've ever met. She's not coming back. She's gone. She was my world. And I'd give anything just for 1 second to hold her again. She wanted children, and she talked me into having two. She wanted them so bad that she wanted to start having kids, or trying to have kids before the wedding. But was nervous that she wouldn't be able to fit into her wedding dress. So we decided to wait till after the wedding to start a family. I don't have joy, I don't have passion, I don't have drive. I feel like I'm stuck in hell. I wish every day that I died. Do you know what it's like to vow to protect your wife and to do anything for her, and then to lose her hours after that? Something nobody should have to go through. This tragedy has touched so many people around the world. I've received letters, messages, strangers all over the country or world just hit home with a lot of people. And they have shown so much love and support. Your sentence does not matter to me. If I had it my way, I'd give you life. It seems only fair since you took Sam's life and the holes that you've ripped to her entire family, my family, and all our friends. But I know that decision is not up to me. Regardless of what decision is made, I still will be in this hell. I still will have to go through everything. My brother-in-law will still have pain, will still have surgery. Sam's family will still miss their daughter and sister. Sam was a light to all of us. She was the wrong person to die that night. This is a quote from Sam's vows. She said, I will love you today, tomorrow, and until I take my last breath on this earth. I am forever yours. That was the hours before you killed her. Thank you for your time, Granny.
There's nothing further. We'll leave that discretion for dealing with facts and circumstances, case, essentially speak for themselves.
Your Honor, with the court's indulgence, I'd like to address the court in argument on behalf of Ms. Komoroski. Thank you.
You may proceed.
May it please the court, I have had the privilege of representing Jamie Komoroski for the last 18 months. And before I get into my sentencing argument, I would just like to take a moment to truly express my deepest condolences to the Miller family, the Hutchinson family, the Garrett families. For my entire defense team, as well as the Komoroski family, we are truly regretful that you had to go through this. And I hope that your injuries will eventually clear up, and I'm so sorry that you have lost Samantha in your lives, and I mean that genuinely. Our entire defense team and the Komoroski family cannot fathom the pain that these lovely families are going through. And while we know it's never enough, we genuinely convey those deepest sympathies and prayers. And I want the court and everyone in the courtroom to know that Jamie has heard the calls for punishment. And as you will soon hear, she recognizes those calls are justified. Punishment is one cornerstone of our criminal justice system. And punishment is warranted here. No one is contesting that. Most importantly, Jamie. And we also recognize that punishment serves deterrence purposes. It ensures that people are accountable for crimes that are committed, especially those that, like in this case, involve victims. Here has been highlighted a beautiful bride lost her life, and several were seriously injured. That's, as I mentioned, that's not lost upon me, the Komoroskis, or our entire defense team, Your Honor. We also just respectfully ask this court to equally consider various other sentencing factors that are likewise cornerstones to the criminal justice system. Factors that we submit are material of fashioning an appropriate sentence here. And those factors necessarily include Jamie's history, her character, her rehabilitative potential, which must be equally weighed with the need to protect society, to deter and to punish. It is my hopeful goal to convey to this honorable court that there is more to Jamie than just the person who committed these terrible crimes and who made these terrible decisions on April 28th. Jamie is a 27-year-old girl who stands before this court with no prior criminal offenses. She's never before been charged with a crime, save a couple minor traffic violations, never even been disciplined for a single infraction. Through her entire life, Jamie has maintained a warm and caring outlook on life for all those around her. She's strived to help others even from a young age, entrusted by so many to care for infants and young children in some of the families where she grew up and in the Charleston metro area. This compassion and care is what caused Jamie to volunteer annually in high school to support the Special Olympics, a cause that was near and dear to her heart since she was a young child. As the court heard Jamie attended college in coastal Carolina and obtained her science and business administration degree. And she ended her career at college on the dean's list, ultimately moving to Charleston after graduating in hopes that there would be employment she could sustain. Maintaining full-time employment, like for so many others, proved elusive for this young graduate. But instead, Jamie took a number of part-time jobs, including continuing babysitting services and working in the service industry in and around the Folly Beach area. Now, sadly, since her college graduation, Your Honor, Jamie has struggled with the demons of alcohol abuse. That is obviously clear here today. And this is something that has likewise challenged her extended family. Jamie was abusing alcohol on a near daily basis, and oftentimes well over in excess. And her addiction, I want to make this point very clearly to the court. It is not offered as an excuse to her conduct whatsoever, or to make it appear that she somehow is the victim. We all recognize, most importantly, Jamie, that that is not the case. She knows no one forced her to drink or drive a car. She, more than anyone in this courtroom, knows that. And I raise this only to demonstrate that her alcohol addiction, the level and scope of it, played a central role in how we arrived here today. As the court is well aware, this is unfortunately not a unique tale for those who struggle with alcohol abuse. Jamie undoubtedly made a tragic and terrible decision to get behind the wheel of a car on April 28th while significantly intoxicated. It was her decision, and no one else's. And I can tell you, after talking to Jamie on a near daily basis during the entire course of my representation, this evening continues to haunt her, and it will continue to do so for the rest of her life, no matter what happens in this courtroom today. Every day, Jamie tells me she wishes she could go back and change what she did, to shake that young girl to her senses. Even Jamie will admit that she doesn't recognize who she was back then, a sentiment that candidly even friends have shared, but unfortunately she can't. Now, Your Honor, it's often been said that character is truly demonstrated in times of struggle and failure, not in times of success. And in that vein, and in that concept, I ask the court to consider Jamie's actions and behavior since these tragic events of April 28th, in addition to her personal history and characteristics. Jamie has not approached this with a woe is me attitude or felt sorry for herself or tried to endorse any victim mentality. Instead, she immediately accepted her addiction and embraced the need for alcohol treatment. And while there were inherent limitations in the substance and depth of that treatment, she did what she could.
When you say inherent limitations, what are you referring to?
She was not able to be visited by a therapist while she was at Alcannon. And based on the
How long
restrictions,
was she at?
she was there for a year. Court will indulge me for one moment. From April 28th, 2023 until her release on March 1st, 2024.
Is there a reason she didn't avail herself of the programs at the jail?
The programs are very limited based on the ability to communicate with inmates there.
No, there's a peer program, the 16 weeks that's available. Someone could have asked that if you ordered it. She could have well taken advantage of that.
No, Your Honor, to be sure, she did. I'm talking about more substantive treatment, which obviously
Here is a substantive program.
she did avail herself.
She did do the peer program?
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me, Your Honor, one second.
Did she do the peer program this morning? It's an acronym, PIER. It's a substance abuse intensive program that's 16 weeks at the jail. It's offered by Charleston Center. It's substantive drug and alcohol treatment. You have to sign up for it. We'll come seek you out. Yeah.
I do not.
So she did not. Okay, you may continue.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Jamie, as the court heard, she's been participating in AA meetings while detained at Alcannon, and since her release to restricted house arrest, in participating in meetings 6 days a week. She has hosted in-person meetings at her apartment every Friday, and also chairs an AA meeting on a weekly basis. Jamie has also volunteered to answer the AA hotline once a week, trying to offer steady and experienced counseling to individuals who may be in crisis.
So why didn't she try to get some inpatient treatment what was the impediment to that? Or having something, not that I'm knocking AA, because I don't, it is for many, it is a great program that assists them, but it usually follows something more substantive, such as intensive inpatient treatment or ongoing intensive outpatient treatment. And I think that's the question that I'm more interested, or most interested in hearing. When you say someone's availed themselves of substance abuse treatment, I expect something more than AA.
We attempted to do that, Your Honor, when we had our detention or bond hearing. In fact,
She's
there's
been out since March 21st, so let's go from there forward.
an extremely restricted house arrest. And as I understand it, unable to facilitate the visits unless we were to go to a facility. Or
Which
she
you
could go
could
to
have
a
asked for
facility.
permission to do, correct? And so that's what there was no attempt to have any type of treatment of that sort.
Endorsement of that permission from the state was not forthcoming, Your Honor.
Did you ask?
We did, we had those discussions.
Did she make any attempts to have any online therapy?
As best as she could, Your Honor. Yes, ma'am.
You may continue.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
While detained at Alcan, she obtained a professional skills credential from South Carolina Works in digital literacy while she was detained. And following her release under the House release conditions, as she alluded to, she's been working 2 jobs, trying to continue to be a contributing member as best as she could under those circumstances to society. She worked remotely as a web designer, and then one colleague through AA was so compelled by her that she hired her as a remote digital marketing assistant, which I am told is a job that she can avail herself of ultimately when she is released. As you'll soon hear from Jamie herself, she deeply regrets these decisions that she made on April 28th. And since the day we were retained, she's been heartbroken for Samantha, Eric, and the families that were involved in this ever since the crash. It's important, and I know she wants to express this, that she is a daughter and sister, and she has, since day one, expressed her sorrow and remorse for the actions that she committed. This has been Jamie's goal and intention ever since we were retained. But on the advice of counsel, we recommended that she hold back on that. There was a period of time where discovery was not available for a while, and any delay in this guilty plea should be attributed solely to our obligation, our ethical and professional obligation to explore defenses and mitigation possibilities, not because of Jamie's failure or unwillingness to plead guilty and exhibit remorse and accept her responsibility. One instance, as attached in our sentencing memorandum, related to a time where we needed to retain a blood alcohol forensics toxicologist to review the state's findings, and we have attached counter findings to that.
Did you all provide a hard copy of the mitigation packet that you provided to the court to my law clerk today? Mr. Williams indicated he planned to bring one with him.
Yes, sir, we have one.
And do you wish to have that filed?
Yeah,
Or
we're
did you already file them?
We have a redacted version of it filed and unredacted version.
Yes. You may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
As I referenced, we included findings of our forensic toxicologist who was retained on behalf of the defense, but I want to emphasize that regardless of that lower BAC, Jamie recognizes the gravity of her crimes and has consistently shown unabated remorse for her actions. I offer that only for the court's consideration in the context of mitigation, and we certainly recognize that regardless, it is above the legal limit. Your Honor, taking all this together, we respectfully submit that Jamie has demonstrated and continue to demonstrate strong rehabilitative potential. And the prospect of her rehabilitation and restoration to a useful place in society, which are key legitimate interests of sentencing, is unquestionable. As you will hear from Jamie herself, she will never be an offender in the criminal justice system again. She continues to work on bettering herself and improving herself following these terrible acts. She helps others by sponsoring and paying her terrible story forward of what happened to these families and seizing any opportunity to help other alcoholics in an effort to prevent further unnecessary death or injury. So, Your Honor, we ask that you consider these sentencing factors equally with the obvious need for deterrence, protection, and punishment that has been alluded to. We have cited for the court's consideration as it sees fits numerous empirical studies that show that there is limited relationship between sentence length and general or specific deterrence. And it actually demonstrates that longer incarceration could potentially be counterproductive for the types of individuals who have no criminal history like Jamie. But again, I leave that to the court's consideration. As I open with, Jamie recognizes that she is due a punishment for her crimes today. The court, as you heard me say, she's been detained at Alcannon from April 28th, 2023 until her release on March 1st, 2024. And since her release, she's been fully compliant with the terms of her monitored house arrest. Pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 241340, we respectfully ask that the court grant Jamie credit for her time served under strictly monitored house arrest, of which she's had no violations. And should the court agree with that request, it would give Jamie a total of approximately 580 days jail credit as of today.
When was she released and placed on monitor?
March 1st, 2024. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Incorporating this credit, we only ask that the court fashion a sentence that's sufficient but not longer than necessary under these circumstances. It is genuinely hoped by Jamie and by all of us and her family that while she caused this great tragedy, her actions on this one day of her 27-year life will not solely define her as a human, and the court will see that. Prior to becoming a defense attorney, Your Honor, I spent the bulk of my professional career as a federal and state prosecutor, including 10 years as an appointed district attorney. And I had the unfortunate obligation to determine countless plea offers in felony DUI cases in a dense jurisdiction of nearly 700,000 people. And sadly, these types of cases were not an uncommon occurrence. To be sure, these are the most difficult, gut-wrenching cases to assess. And as is the case here, defendants are typically people who have lived very productive lives with no criminal record. And I just want to highlight that what I believe the court is familiar with. These defendants don't set out to commit crimes with malice or evil in their hearts. But nonetheless, those actions that they take have destroyed or taken lives. Balancing the interests of the state, the victims, and the defendant is extremely difficult. And Jamie here is no different. She has chosen to plead guilty to her crimes without the protection of a plea agreement. The court should see this, I hope, as evidence of Jamie's genuine remorse and acceptance of responsibility for her actions. She never intended to challenge these charges because she knew what she did was wrong the minute that it happened. She would never put the Millers, the Hutchinsons, or the remaining family members through the pain of a trial, having gone through what they already have. Your Honor, I say the last concept for what I submit is the most fundamental cornerstone of the criminal justice system, and that's mercy. Mercy is not often spoke of in the courtroom, but the courtroom is precisely the place where mercy should exist, especially considering the nature of felony DUI cases where tragedy exists on both sides of the V. It is difficult to keep mercy at the forefront, especially when a beautiful life like Samantha's has been taken, and wonderful people that stand and sit behind me have been through what they've been through. But I humbly submit, this is where mercy plays the biggest part. Jamie and our defense team are not arguing for release. As stated, we recognize that punishment is warranted here. What we simply ask the court is this 27-year-old girl with no criminal history, who struggles to face the demons of alcohol abuse, and who made a tragic error in judgment to drink and drive, who has no history of violence, and who most importantly has regretted and has been remorseful for her actions since the moment she committed them. Is this girl deserving of the court's mercy? We humbly submit the answer is yes, and under these circumstances, ask the court to properly fashion a sentence that is sufficient but not greater than necessary to punish the conduct here. Jamie's a young girl who made a truly terrible error in judgment, and there but for the grace of God go us all. That concludes my argument, Your Honor. With the court's permission, I would invite some of the members of the Komoroski family and other supporters to address the court.
I have a list of 7 people, is that, well, not including your client, I have a list of 6 people, is that who you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first person I'd like to invite to address the court is Jane's father, Charles Komoroski, who's seated in the left side of the courtroom.
Yes, sir, if you would state your name for the record.
My name's Charles Komoroski, dad of Jamie Komoroski's father.
Yes, sir, be glad to hear from you.
Your Honor, I would like to address Samantha Miller, the Millers, and Eric Hinson's family. In the courtroom. I'm very sorry for the pain and suffering of my daughter Jamie's terrible decision to drink excessive amounts of alcohol and drive a car that resulted in taking the life of Samantha. I am so very sorry, and so truly very sorry. Because of the pain that she has caused, Jamie is doing everything she can to help others. She has become very involved with Alcoholics Anonymous. She attends virtual Alcoholics Anonymous meetings every day. She's the chairperson of one of the meetings. She hosts a meeting every Friday morning in her home, at her apartment. She volunteered to be on call for the Alcoholics Anonymous hotline. She answers calls from people that are in immediate need of support and information. She advises them on how to get involved with Alcoholics Anonymous and also reassures them that they are taking the first step to getting help for their addiction. She shares her personal story so that may prevent others from drinking and driving. She is passionate about trying to help people to not drink and drive. She is a very caring, loving young lady. She's working and will work tirelessly to help others to make better decisions than she has and to never drink and drive. She has taken full responsibility for her disastrous decision to drink and drive, resulting in taking Samantha's life. Please allow her to fulfill her heartfelt desire to help others to prevent someone from making the tragic decision to drink and drive. She truly is a wonderful person that can and will help others. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
I'm very sorry.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to invite Jane's mother, Tracy Komoroski, to address the court next.
Yes, ma'am, we'd be glad to hear from you. You would state your name for the record.
My name is Tracy Komoroski. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, could you spell your first name for the record?
Traci.
Thank you, ma'am, you may proceed.
I'm Jamie's mother, and first I want to say how truly sorry I am for all the pain and suffering and heartache the victims and their families and loved ones have endured. With my sorrows, I will always feel the pain. I will not feel the pain, I will feel God for what has happened to everyone. Jamie is a compassionate, caring, generous, and a loving person. She's been a loyal friend, sister, and daughter. She greatly cares for others and wants the best and happiness for others. This makes her happy. Jamie was a good student who graduated from Coastal Carolina College and made Dean's List. She chose to stay in South Carolina to live rather than come back home to New Jersey. A couple years after college, Jamie started to share with me that she had been suffering from anxiety and depression. We spoke about talking to someone and seeing a doctor, which she did. I often thought her anxiety and depression was due to being homesick and lonely, and perhaps just to the daily stress of life. I now believe Jamie was using alcohol to cope with her feelings. I will forever regret not speaking to Jamie about alcoholism because it has been our immediate family. Jamie has been doing everything she can to better herself. As I know these things are being repeated, but this is what I wrote down. She has been involved in AA and its members. She joins meetings online, answers AA hotline calls to help others. Jamie is constantly sharing her story, constantly help others from making the same mistakes she has. She has opened her heart to many. I respect your sentence for Jamie, Your Honor, but I do ask for some mercy on my daughter. I know she made a horrible decision, but she is a good person. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak about her daughter today.
You're welcome, ma'am. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the court?
Yes, Your Honor. Next, I would invite Jamie's sister, Lee Komoroski, to address the court.
Yes, ma'am. If you would tell us your name for the record.
Lee Komoroski,
You can spell your first name, please.
K-E-S-I.
Thank you, ma'am. You may proceed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I, of course, first want to apologize to friends and family and loved ones of Samantha. So sorry, and nothing that we got here today. You know, this is horrible decisions that I wish there was a general.
Ma'am, we need you to speak up for us,
Oh,
please. The
sorry.
court reporter can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I wish there was a way to go back in time and change the horrible decisions that Katie made that night. And I can only imagine the depth of your sorrow and your heartbreak. I am truly, truly sorry. I know a lot of people have spoken about what Jamie has done since being released and coming onto house arrest. And I think the biggest note here is that she's just taken as much action as she can. It was an action that caused a death, and I know she's going to vow and commit herself to placing actions out in the world that could hopefully right these wrongs in one way or another. She's here to help others through their struggles and to be more open about struggles about alcoholism. You know, how you see it in your family and how you can prevent things from moving forward to something so devastating happening. I love Jerry very much, and I'm sure that's hard for some people to hear, but I've known her whole life. She's not a bad person. She won't wish harm on anybody. She did make a horrible, horrible mistake. I am very sorry to the Ben's families and loved ones, and I just ask the court sees the potential in her to be able to move forward and help others. I know she will, wherever she may be. And I just thank you for your time.
You're welcome, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Next, I invite Kim Walters to address the court.
You would state your name for the record.
That's Kimberly Walters.
You may proceed.
First of all, I'm deeply sorry for the loss of Samantha, as well as the financial implications, as well as the implications of the family. My name is Kimberly Walters, and I'm a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I've been attending AA for many years. I take meetings to the jail, and that's where I met the defendant, Jamie. I met her in May 2023. She was extremely sad and confused when I met her, and she didn't grasp the situation. While in Jamie, she had limited access to counseling while she was in jail, but she did attend the AA meetings that we brought in from the outside. We provided her with a big book, and she started to go through it with some of the members within her community and read the big book as well. When she was released on house arrest, she reached out to me through some of the Zoom meetings and asked me to be her sponsor, and I gladly accepted. As her sponsor, I met with Jamie twice a week at her apartment. We went to the big book. We began working the 12 steps of AA. AA is not just a fellowship, it is a way of life. It's a way of life for me and many others to keep me sober. I work with other alcoholics. She is taking complete action for accountability for her actions, and she's made amends where she can. Jamie approaches part of the process with fearless determination to turn her life around and take responsibility She made direct amends where she could, and she took on a path of honesty and integrity. Through her involvement in AA, we heard all the great things she's done, whether it be hosting meetings at her home, reaching out to other alcoholics, or sharing her story so this tragic accident will not repeat itself. In addition to recovery efforts, she's also found a part-time job, using her education to better herself and care for herself. This opportunity has allowed her to get back to the community by advancing her career. She's passionate about helping others, as we've heard, and helping other local run businesses and helping other women and alcoholics. As we all know, what has occurred is a tragic accident as a result of the disease of alcoholism. While there's no true right way to right this wrong, Jamie is deeply remorseful of her past actions, and I care for her. She was my own daughter. She's thoughtful, kind, and compassionate. This tragic experience has unfortunately awakened her and had her claim that she's now an alcoholic, and she's now embraced the principles of AA. In my many years of Alcoholics Anonymous, I have worked with many sponsees. That's part of this program. You can't get sober alone. We do it with others. We continue to carry the message to help other alcoholics. Jamie stands out to me as a very impactful person, not only because of her circumstances, because of her unwavering faith. Her unwavering faith in a brighter future and in embracing of the AA program. Jamie is ready to make amends for the life she took and for all those that were affected. She's accepted whatever the judicial system imposes on her and intends to face this with dignity and sobriety. I'm incredibly proud of her, and although she's remorseful for her choices, she is an alcoholic and she was sick. She did not make the decision consciously or sanely when she was drunk. She made the choice to drink, but unfortunately in alcoholism, this is a deadly disease and we make very poor choices. While nothing can be done to bring back Samantha, Jamie's a young woman with a full head of life ahead of her. She's already on the way to changing her life around and adding many, many years of sentence. Might be reckless as well. I have 2 teenage daughters, and while I would be devastated if something happened to them, I would hate for another life to be taken away through a lengthy sentence. I strongly believe that our AA community and the broader society will be better off when they're actively contributing as a member, and I pray for mercy and leniency. I thank you for considering my words.
You're welcome, Mandy.
Thank you, Your Honor. Next, I'd like to invite the Director of the Charleston Recovery Center, Jennifer Jett, to address the board.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. If you would tell us your name for the record.
My name is Jennifer Jett, Jennifer, P-E-T-T.
Thank you. You may proceed.
I have had a lot of tears for both families involved in this, and a lot of prayers for both sides of it. There's no easy way, and no easy solution for anybody in this world. I got a phone call before I had even heard of Jamie from her dad asking about getting her in for treatment at the Charleston Recovery Center. I know that she had wanted to get help for her alcoholism. I guess it was shortly after the accident. I don't watch the news. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know her. I didn't know her dad. But I knew that her dad was reaching out for help. I later found out who he was calling about was Jamie. And I was invited to the bond hearing where the family and her attorneys had hoped to get her enrolled in the Charleston Recovery Center for a residential long-term inpatient recovery center, and they wanted to have Jamie come there. It didn't work out with the decision of the court, but shortly after Jamie was released on her bond, she reached out to me, and I know that she reached out to several other women in AA and tried to get some sort of recovery going from where she was standing. She wasn't sure how that worked. It sounded like she had found a wonderful sponsor. She checked in with me several times since she's been on house arrest. I've been making good progress with her sponsor. Alcoholics, I'm a recovered alcoholic myself. My sober date is April 21 of 2019. And I've been on the side of the law where, the courts, where I was facing I know that from that side of it, God can use us wherever we go. Whether it's this courtroom, whether it's jail, whether it's home. In Jamie's case, she has thoroughly embraced the steps. You're right, Your Honor, you can't go to AA and expect to stay sober. You have to thoroughly walk this path. You have to thoroughly invest yourself in this program over 3 steps. Jamie has worked all of the steps, and a huge part of this program is continuing to pass on this message to other alcoholics. And her story is powerful. Working in a recovery community, I've seen a lot of tragedy. It's a heartbreaking field to be in, but it's also very rewarding because I've had the benefit of seeing people like Jamie turn their lives around and carry this message to help countless other people that came in behind them. I went to an AA meeting once and they asked somebody who was sober several years, several decades, to stand up. He was dying of natural causes. He was still sober. They had asked everybody who he had helped who he had sponsored to stand up. And a handful of men stood up. Then they told those men to keep standing and people that were sponsored by those men to stand up. And more people stood up. And then those people who had they sponsored to stand up. And eventually, out of about 150 people in the room, everybody was standing except for a couple of people who hadn't had a chance to embrace the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the ripple effect of what Jamie's story is and how it can heal people and help others, she may deserve a punishment. But the people that she can help don't deserve that. I believe that. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Last week, I had Jamie's brother, CJ Komoroski, address the court.
Sir, if you could tell us your name for the record.
My name is CJ Komoroski.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
To Mr. and Miss Miller and Eric, I'm so sorry for what you lost and what you will not get back. I'll carry this day with me as a reminder to forever and always be careful and think twice to make sure nothing like this will ever happen again. I wholeheartedly believe in my sister Jamie that she truly does feel the same way. I trust her. I'm confident in her beliefs and her abilities to make something right out of all of this. That is all. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. With the court's permission, I would like to invite Jamie up to address the court.
Yes, ma'am, you may proceed. You're welcome.
My name is Lee Komoroski, and on the night of April 28, 2023, I chose to drink and drive, which resulted in the death of Samantha Miller and the serious injuries of Eric Hutchinson and injuries to family members Defendant and Brogan. This is the worst decision I have ever made in my life, and it has affected the lives of so many. First and foremost, I want to address all the victims of the accident I caused and say how truly and deeply sorry I am. Due to my poor decisions, a beautiful life was taken. A wife, sister, daughter, and friend of many is no longer with us. And for that, while I know an apology will fix nothing, all I can say is how incredibly remorseful I am. I also am truly sorry and remorseful for the physical and emotional pain I caused to the other family members. I wish I could go back and undo this terrible tragedy, but I cannot. I will live the rest of my life with immense regret for what happened that night. I also want to express my deep remorse and sincere apologies to all who were involved in this tragedy, including the first responders, police, friends, and families of the victims, and anyone who was hurt in any way due to my poor decisions that night. This will be something that impacts all of you for the rest of your lives. I take full responsibility for the tragic outcome that my decisions have made. I will carry this guilt with me for the rest of my life. And as much as I wish I could go back in time and have none of this happen, I know that cannot be done. A lesson I have learned is that just because you have good intentions or would never want to hurt anyone, if you aren't being responsible for your actions, you can and you will hurt people. I know I am going to be punished for these actions, and I agree that it is something that must be done. I would like to make it clear that whatever my punishment is, I will use the time to better myself, spread awareness about the dangers of drinking and driving, continue to help others with addictions through AA, and work every day to improve myself to give maximum service to the community and my fellows. Some ways I plan on doing this include staying extremely involved in AA and the fellowship of helping people recover from their addictions. I am able to do this because I know what it is like to be an addict. I did not want to believe that I had an addiction to alcohol before this tragedy, and so I told myself every day I was normal. The fact was, though, that I was helplessly addicted to alcohol, and that I was living every day with no meaning. This led to me not caring about how my actions would affect others. I never want to live my life that way again. And I hope to help people to never have to feel that way as well. After completing my sentence, however long Your Honor decides, I plan on going back to school to get a master's degree in animal-assisted therapy. This degree will allow me to follow out my dreams of being able to help people recover from PTSD, anxiety, depression, addiction, and more through the use of rescue animals. Lastly, I want to share my story with as many people possible in order to try and prevent tragedies like this from happening to other families. I want to emphasize the importance of warnings of drinking and driving to college students as well as young adults who haven't heard the message since high school. It is vital that the warnings of drinking and driving don't stop after the age of 18. I feel we all need to be reminded, no matter what our age is, so that the reality that this can happen, if not careful, stays fresh in people's minds. I have never been in trouble before, but one isolated decision of mine devastated so many lives. All of this work I plan on doing will be dedicated to Samantha and her family. Unfortunately, it took this incredible tragedy and terrible incident to wake me up to the extent of my addiction. I hope to help people wake up and rehabilitate before it's too late. Because every single decision we make has consequences. And knowing you have taken a beautiful life from this world is something I will live with every moment of every day going forward. A life that should have lived on to fulfill all of her dreams and ambitions, who would have helped so many people in my life, all because of my own inconsiderate and thoughtless actions. I want the last thing that I say to be that from the very bottom of my heart, with every fiber in my being how sorry I am and that I take full responsibility for my actions. Hopefully one day you will be able to forgive me, but I know forgiveness must be earned, regardless of whether that day ever comes. Please know that I will always be devastated, deeply ashamed, and terribly sorry for what I have done. I pray God stands by the side of my victims and their family and loved ones for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anything from the state, I would like to hear from the state regarding the defense request for, credit for home detention pursuant to 241340 for her house arrest.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, please, the court.
Yes,
The state's opposed to that credit, although.
Tell me why.
Well, Your Honor, the state's position is that pretrial detention, incarcerations, manifestly different than being at home, being able to
What
spend.
does the statute say though, and what does the legislature say about the statute? Why did they amend the statute?
The statute leaves it in the court's discretion, understanding that it's the court's decision to make. I'm just conveying the position of the state. Although it is in your discretion, it is, it may be granted according to statute. That the state sees that pretrial detention is different than house arrest.
What was, it's my understanding, and I don't have the bond order in front of me, and I apologize in advance for that, because I should have it in front of me so that I'd be able to refer to it. Not your fault, of course, or your responsibility. But doesn't the statute speak to these type situations where someone is on strict house arrest, where they're not allowed to leave their residence, and but for the fact that they are at home, they basically are incarcerated, and that's why the statute was amended?
It speaks to 1340 does speak to that under for conditions where one is under strict house arrest, credit may be given at the discretion of the court, essentially.
I think that if you look at the legislative history, that's what the legislature contemplated, and that's why the statute was amended. Do you have any indication that she was allowed to leave her house during the period of, what her lawyer said she was released on March?
She was released March 1 of 2024, Your Honor.
And do you have any indication that she was allowed to leave her house, or was she strictly confined to her residence on GPS?
Your Honor, according to the bond order, she's strictly confined. She was able to leave, and with the understanding of the state for the SLED mandated maintenance of the GPS monitor.
And to see her lawyer and for emergent medical situations, correct? That's generally.
It was for medical emergencies with the permission of the court from the bond order.
And when was that bond order established? When was it?
The hearing was August 1st, 2023, Your Honor.
And when was the order issued?
It was issued immediately afterwards. I don't know the exact filing date, but it was drafted and then filed.
Was the judge now?
It was.
So the order was issued August 1st of 2023, but she did not bond out until 3/1 of 2024, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. That was a condition of the bond.
But what exactly were the conditions of the bond? Was it simply a house arrest, or was there more to it? Was there a surety put in place?
There was $150,000 surety. It was strict house arrest, but for medical emergencies, the defendant was to wear a scram monitor and be monitored by GPS bracelet, right? And then by consent, we modified that.
I apologize. So she was allowed, in the initial order, she was allowed to leave her house for what purposes?
Medical emergency, Your Honor.
And that was it?
That was it, yes, Your Honor.
And then
it's
you
further,
said you all consented to?
She consented to an amendment that allowed her to leave pursuant to the requirements of SLED maintenance on the GPS.
So she had to go someplace in New Jersey to have them maintain the monitor, or how did that
No,
work?
that was local, Your Honor, that was, her bond was, posted by Bad Boys Bail Bonds, and
So she
then,
never left South Carolina, is that what you're
that's
doing?
correct, she had to maintain a residence in Charleston County.
Okay, that just needs the clarity I need. So that, she had to go to that, where'd she have to go for the maintenance on the monitor?
To, I believe it's Somerville, that would have been the monitoring agency's, office. She did that every, once a month, and prior to that, it was every, 90 days to check the battery on the scram monitor.
And I have that order, and I have the modified order, I don't have the original order from Judge Jones. But I signed the original modified order on May 17th of 2024, and what you all agreed to was $150,000 surety, electronic monitoring and house arrest, permitted to leave residence for medical emergencies, or as directed by prior orders of the court, where scram monitor must reside in Charleston County and must surrender her passport.
That's right, Your Honor.
Bear with me. Thank you, I appreciate it. The original bond order was entered March 1st of, when I say original, I mean by circuit judge, March 1st of 2024. And that was by Judge Nettles, and what he indicated was, and that was, it was signed 2/29 of 2024, but it was issued March 1 of 2024. And the hearing was, you said in August of 2023.
Correct.
And that order provided $150,000 surety. The defendant shall be subject to electronic monitoring house arrest. The defendant shall only be permitted to leave her house for medical emergencies or as directed by prior orders of the court. The defendant shall be required to wear a scram monitor, and for the benefit of the court reporter, that's an acronym, and it is SCRAM. The defendant must maintain a residence in Charleston County. The defendant is prohibited from driving and must surrender her passport. So it looks like the only difference was the allowing her to leave for medical emergencies. Was the only, no? So I'm trying to figure out what was amended by the second.
So
To allow the SLED monitoring, I got you, I apologize. To go to coastal monitoring for her monthly SLED mandated monitor inspection.
That's correct.
Okay, and so that was what, a couple hours every month? How long, do you have any idea how long that maintenance took?
I do not. I did check with monitoring companies today, and they did not identify any violations.
I'm present, in case you have any questions.
Perfect, you can answer that question for
Yes,
me.
ma'am.
How often was the maintenance, if you could tell us your name for the record,
Stacy Andrews, STACY.
and you were with Bad Boys?
No, ma'am, my company is Coastal Carolinas Monitoring LLC.
And how often did this maintenance take place?
Now that we're SLED mandated as of January this year, GPS clients must be visually in person inspected once a month. So she was at my office for about 20, 30 minutes at most, once a month.
Perfect, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm sorry, you may continue your argument regarding whether, regarding the request for, credit for monitored house arrest pursuant to 2413.
I don't think I have anything further on that line.
Well, tell me again why you feel it should not be awarded.
It's the state's position that, although contemplated by the legislature, it is inherently a manifestly different to be incarcerated within the jail system versus being at home.
You're saying the house arrest system, when they modified the statute, that was their intention, that you only get credit for being in jail?
That the credit is at the discretion of the court, Your Honor. And the state's position is that that should not be granted. However, again, it's at the discretion of the court.
Anything further from the state regarding any response to the defense argument on sentencing?
Only as Your Honor pointed out, the The only amendment to the bond, the only amendment sought for the bond was to maintain the GPS monitor. There's no, other there were discussions that were referenced regarding substance abuse treatment. That would have been, and that was conveyed, that's a discussion, that's a determination of the court, that was never sought.
Are you saying that she never sought permission to go to intensive inpatient or outpatient treatment?
Not from the court, Your Honor, no.
That's not my question. Did she ever ask for y'all's permission to do that? And is her counsel correct in his representation to the court that y'all were not amenable to that request?
It would have been via consent, we would know.
All right. Anything further, Mr. Finch?
No, Your Honor.
We all have been sitting over 2 hours. I think it would be appropriate for us to take about a 5-minute break. I need to think for a couple minutes, after which we'll resume. It is now 3:49. This 5 minutes, y'all know I don't count well.
3:54, Your Honor.
We'll be back at 3:54.
Make sure you don't drink much when I give you some
Go ahead.
Judge understands, yeah, I would take you with the beats. I sat there and watched her sit for 2 hours and not really, just like go through like case after case after case. She's like a beast. But she understands you gotta get up and you gotta do her thing.
Yeah. I was a shadow.
If you need to take off, go somewhere. I'm in the courtroom. So I told Charlie to cover me and he left.
Well, he asked me if I was good. I was like, yeah.
I was sitting in the chair going. I've been in the other room. But, so, because there's not personnel in here, obviously we have to have a deputy in here because that's the sister's side. I don't have to explain to you, you know, but yeah. So just,
I think it was one of those people right here.
yeah. So these guys. Neither of y'all got a key, but yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, y'all got keys?
Well, we were downside.
Oh, okay. Make sure and turn them in before you leave.
You want to
Yeah. Oh, hell, Christmas. Yeah. They will call you and you will come back. Oh, yeah, and I'm happy to. If you need to go somewhere, I got it. Italy already said to tell you that. Just a minute.
I'm good.
Do it all the time. Carry it on when I'm home. I'll do it. Stick it in there. Just a teardrop, listen. So. You've been, I mean, it's no excuse, but you don't have that ability typically to make or overall. Devastated.
Order of court, all rise, please. Y'all can be seated. All rise, please.
You may be seated. The defendant will stand for sentence. I've listened very intently to everything that has been presented to the court, and I have taken into consideration the mitigation that has been presented. And based on what has been presented to the court, I find the following appropriate in the nature of sentencing. On the offense of reckless driving, reckless homicide, which is 2023 GS 103895, you're sentenced to the State Department of Corrections for a period of 10 years and $5,000, provided upon the service of 10 years. So, yeah. On both counts of felony DUI, great bodily injury, you're sentenced to the State Department of Corrections for a period of 15 years and $5,100, provided upon the service of 15 years. And on the offense of felony DUI with death, you're sentenced to the State Department of Corrections for a period of 25 years and $10,100, provided upon the service of 25 years. These sentences are concurrent with one another. You'll get credit pursuant to 241340 if that becomes applicable. And I think it is appropriate, and I queried Mr. Finch for a particular reason. It was not random. Our state legislature, in their infinite wisdom, amended 241340 to allow for time spent on monitored house arrest. And it was contemplated that a person get credit when they are basically in jail at home. And based on how Ms. Komoroski's home detention was structured, she was in jail, but for being at home. And I think it is appropriate that she receive credit for any time served on monitored house arrest or home detention. Those terms in my mind are interchangeable. From the period of 3/1/2024 through the present, and we'll calculate that and place it on her sentencing sheets. Again, these sentences are concurrent. I've ordered the ATU if it is available to her, and she will get credit for any time served pursuant to 24/13/40. Thank you all for your time and your attention today. Have a good afternoon. And I will leave the clearance of the courtroom to security, so I would ask that everyone stay in place and allow Major Bernstead and those who are assisting him. Ma'am, you may want to leave any valuables you have with your family. Leave that to them, so I would ask that everyone stay seated until the security does what they need to do in terms of clearing the courtroom. And if Mr. Curry at this point are present, as soon as y'all get through doing that, if y'all could bring him in so we can take care of his matters.
And I'm trying to think who's on the other side of that case.
Mr. Frazier?
Yeah, are they?
I don't know if they're here, I can send a message.
Could you find out for me? That would be very.
Yes, Your Honor.
I appreciate it.
I